In 1999, Joel Schumacher released 8mm, a Nicolas Cage thriller that critics slammed as being sleazy, appalling, and exploitative. It was a film so grim and disturbing that many felt it was simply too dark for the 90s. With James Gandolfini oozing sleaze and a young Joaquin Phoenix in one of his first breakout roles, Schumacher drags us into the underground world of snuff films. But was he pushing boundaries or just wallowing in depravity? We are now on film number 3 of our Nicolas Cage arc here on Foreplay. If you're wondering where we began, it was, of course, with the seminal film The Rock. Then it was leaving Las Vegas. We are now here at 8mm, and next week we will be discussing adaptation before we head into our next arc, which will be announced next week. So there you guys go. 8mm. We're back with director Joel Schumacher,
our
who
old
also
friend,
did The Lost Boys.
Our old friend.
Legendary Batman Forever and Batman and Robin director, which, you know, guys, maybe they are the best Batman movies. I don't know anymore. My entire world was thrown out of balance by the Batman Returns
The
fiasco
seismic
on
shock
this
of
show.
realizing Batman Returns is an irredeemable piece of shit movie. That did shake me to my core.
Yes,
I'm not gonna lie.
it shook us all. It shook us all to our cores. And so now I question everything, including, are those movies even bad?
Here's why I don't think that might even be implausible, Monty, because I actually feel like if I rewatched them, first of all, Joel Schumacher, as we can get into if you want, he actually isn't a hack. He is just a kind of a straight Hollywood director, though, ironically. In terms of, like, he does just do, like, you know, puts it on the screen. It's not like it's not fucking Tarkovsky, is it? But I will say, part of me almost thinks, Monty, if you revisit those films, maybe because, I mean, one of them even literally has Arnold Schwarzenegger doing one-liners in. Maybe he was doing a wink-wink to the camera. Maybe it was, you know, so bad it's good. Maybe it's not that bad to what I don't know. But, and I'm with you. I've lost all bearings on Batman films now.
I mean, there's always the different takes on Batman, right? And the campy take has always been a valid Batman take from, of course, you know, the comics, the Adam West TV show. So campiness has always been part of Batman. So them leaning into it, especially with Val Kilmer, kind of like, now I kind of want to go back and revisit those. Do I think that I really want to watch 90s Jim Carrey as the Riddler? Not really. But I will watch Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze doing the one-liners. So I don't know. All I'm going to say is people love The Dark Knight, but they also forget that half The Dark Knight is really bad with Two-Face. And this is what I love about The Dark Knight. People remember the opening scene with the Joker, and then all the Heath Ledger stuff, and then they conveniently forget all of the bad parts of The Dark Knight, and they say The Dark Knight is amazing. It's like half of the movie's great. The other half is really terrible. And I like Aaron Eckhart, and yet the movie is not awesome, right?
Yeah, I didn't think his Two-Face was particularly good. They set him up really well.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think the realization of the character was all that good, but it really doesn't matter when, you know, I mean, the sad part is Heath Ledger's not in the movie enough. I mean, that's like the reality about that film.
Of course. Like, you know, Two-Face doesn't even need to be in this movie. This movie would have been better with just the Joker. Anyway, so my point is, for all those people who are now screaming about the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, as I say that as I proclaim the heresy that perhaps Batman and Robin is in fact the best.
I mean,
Batman
you're totally
movie.
wrong, but I love the fact that you're wrong in a really Monte Cristo way.
I'm not making that claim because I haven't seen Batman and Robin probably since it was released. Okay, so I'm just saying everything I knew about Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, was a lie.
By the way, I will just throw this out there. Of all the, like, stupid things they put into a Batman film, the most stupid but genius might be that the way Robin avoids dying to Poison Ivy's kiss is fake lips. That is just, even saying it out loud, you think that can't surely be how it's implemented. No, literally, that's it. Just fake lips, isn't it? Like, That's real though, isn't it? Remember, that is a key point in the movie.
Fake.
All right,
That's so bad, isn't it?
I feel like we can't dodge Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever on this show.
I see what you did there.
By the way,
Batman Forever.
Richard's saying that to be like witty or whatever. Like, he has also done some really good films.
No,
like,
listen.
by the way, we've even done one ourselves here, The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
It's one of his fucking
Lost Boys is great.
By the way, he's
I've
got a
said
bunch
it.
of others that are pretty good. I
Like-
mean, he did Falling Down. I'm sure Richard likes that film. Fucking Flatliners, also Wee Boy Kiefer. What is it? A Time to Kill was a good movie.
Funnily enough-
Phone Booth is actually even not a bad sort of concept film if anyone
Yeah.
saw it. And to be fair, I haven't watched that in 20 years, but it was decent when it came out.
For me, he's like the quintessential kind of like you know, almost like a better version of Michael Bay. Like he just wants to.
Yeah, he just does good thrillers, mate.
He
I even
just
think
wanted to make good films, you know. Like
it's even what I actually wrote down about this film to lead into it. I just put this film is just a straight thriller, not really any like crazy twists. It's got good procedural aspects. In fact, actually, one of the most underrated things I thought you'd appreciate, Monty, is the way he actually goes about trying to solve this case and find people. It's actually very intelligent. Like it even makes
It's really interesting.
That would even work in real life, like the way he sort of does his investigation work. And at the end of it all, by the way, it's not some super complex thing you're gonna have to sit and think about. Even though because it's Hollywood, they think it's like, oh, he did it because he could. No, it's a black and white morality play. But it's actually like quite a straight up film in that sense.
You know what was really surprising for me about 8mm. So this was the film in the arc that I hadn't seen, and so I had seen some. It has like a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. And then I watched it, which is really surprising to me because a lot of critics were saying it was boring and lacked mystery and suspense, but I found it to be very well paced. I found it to be like they were constantly bringing in new pieces of information to keep you titillated. I felt it was quite suspenseful personally, and it was genuinely, I think, it's not a complex movie by any means, but it keeps you hooked. I was engaged the whole
you
time.
could also
I didn't think it was
argue
bad.
it is a neo-noir, Monty. It even actually like the setup at the beginning is just a fucking film noir bit. Like, so when Rich has a task for you as an investigator who's not the police, and the police looking at this
perfect setup.
Classic.
Well, even then, it just drips film noir from the mansion that he goes to, and the old dowager and her ridiculous accent. You know, she's hamming it up with that transatlantic accent. You know, the rich,
which nobody
the old
has
money
in the
rich
90s.
person.
Come on, I know,
nobody ever had that accent. By the way, nobody ever had that accent. That was not a real accent. But it's the whole like I'm old money East Coast rich, you know, that's that accent, but nobody actually has that accent. It's just in like shitty fiction.
Tell me the poor girl wasn't killed, please. Find her alive.
I'll do the best I can, man.
Hey everybody, if you love foreplay, we always ask you to like and subscribe, and that's still true. Leave a comment if you like to. We try and answer some of those. But right now, YouTube is testing a new hype feature, which is below the like button. And this can really help us reach new audiences so that other people can enjoy this fine film content and we can make arcs of foreplay for many years to come. So please hit that hype button for us. Help us climb those rankings. Thanks a lot, guys. And so I thought, yeah, of course, it's just all film noir. Oh, no, my husband died. But unlike film noir, as we discussed with the Hays Code, this is just all about incredibly messed up snuff
That's
porn.
right, it's a neo-noir. It's right there with fucking LA Confidential, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair as well, and I don't know when we would get into this, but it's also very, 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 very similar to the 1979 movie Hardcore. Which I don't. It was Paul Schrader.
I haven't seen it.
Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver, basically directed this film. It was one of his leftover scripts. Obviously, it's like 79. He's coming off, having a bunch of success. Obviously, Taxi Driver comes out middle of the 70s, and basically, this is a movie which I would urge anybody to watch because it's got George C. Scott in as a businessman whose daughter, she goes away on it's like a church trip or something really wholesome, and then she disappears, and then he gets given an 8mm film, which is her just in an insane sex act. I mean, it's not really that insane. I think she is just having a threesome, if memory serves me correct. But for the purposes of the movie, it's like
this era, though.
Yeah. It's like, oh my god. And basically, he takes it upon himself to investigate where is she, how she been co-opted into sex work and all of this stuff. And I'm convinced 8mm is essentially a retread of that, just with a modern retelling, because obviously if you grew up in the 80s, and we'll talk about this at length in a moment, if you grew up in the 80s, the Snuff movie, the myth of the Snuff movie was absolutely huge. And so if anyone wants to see a version of this with George C. Scott fucking chewing the scenery, because I don't think Nick Cage is very good in this movie.
You know, Richard, you're making a very strong case for a Snuff films arc, because we could also include the counselor in that,
which fucking love.
I love.
I mean, look, put it this way. Okay, let's get to the Snuff movie part of the discussion. Me and Duncan will have a very different experience to you on this.
Oh, I know where you've gone on this already.
So
it's actually essentially, Richard, I'll just give you the tee up. If people don't know, before the internet, there is a famous thing that somehow, no one really knows how, there used to just be the same weird, like, rumours and myths. It's like the famous version of, like, just before the internet is the famous one of Richard Gere shoves gerbils up his arse. Because everyone's like, how does that get around the world and become a thing with it? Because everyone in the playground heard that. You know what I mean? Like, so similarly, I know what you mean, Richard. Stuff like this, anything weird with, like, sex or crime, there would always be those mad fucking, like, almost urban legend stories, right? Of, like, this person and this girl, my sister's paid. But because there was no internet, you could never check anything.
There's the
kid in the playground.
It was all the urban legends where it's like, oh man, did you know that Snuff films are real and this is what happened? And like, you got to go to the dark underground, markets, and that's where they trade them. And that you see this in this film. So I think for us who grew up like hearing about this shit, even though they weren't real guys, like, and as they're said in the film, like everybody knows this is just an urban legend. Basically.
Right, as a kid. I've said this many times, I had grandparents that, for good or ill, would indulge me and allow me to watch whatever movies I wanted, and I was exposed to a lot of, I consider, formative movies.
So we'll make the poster. Richard Lewis at the time now it's Kino, not even once. You know what I mean? Like some shit like that.
They basically, I mean, it was bonkers, man. I'm talking about watching like Evil Dead 2 when I'm 8 years old or something. Like, I mean, like I was, and I was pretty advanced as a kid when it came to stuff like movies and stuff. I did have a pretty good level of intelligence. Like, I could be exposed to stuff that was like violent, like RoboCop. It didn't like affect me. I remember one time as well, because me and my granddad liked war.
Wait a minute, how old were you when you watched RoboCop?
And again, like probably like, I mean, younger than 10.
You're like 9 years old watching like bitches leave.
I mean, there was basically
machine gun in the fuck out.
I thought it was sick.
I mean, if you don't understand, if you're a child and you don't understand its satire, that might be kind of messed up.
To be fair, I just thought it was wicked. I was wicked as a kid. But I mean, like, so the other thing, basically, I got it from two directions, right? I used to go visit my grandparents. My family was like really fractured, and I used to visit my grandparents on a weekend, and they lived in a nice neighborhood, and I lived in a shithole. And I would get driven up to visit them, and I would stay over the weekend. And down the road was a little video shop, the kind of video store that, again, it doesn't exist now, and a lot of the youngsters wouldn't have a frame of reference for it. But back in the VHS days, pre-blockbuster, that people used to run video rental stores, and you would just go in. It would be like a news agent, probably another concept lost on everyone. Yeah. You would basically buy like some sweets. They would sell you confectionaries. They would sell you magazines. And of course, quite famously, if you wanted a pornography magazine, they used to keep them under the counter, and you'd be like, "Well, I'll have an escort." You didn't put them up on the shelves, right? Because can't have that being exposed to people. And then out back in this one, there was a shelves of VHS tapes with lurid movie posters designed to entice you to rent certain movies, many of them horror films. And basically, I used to walk down there with my grandmother and or grandfather, and we would go into this shop, and you could rent something like 2 movies for £3 and have them all weekend. And so one of the things we used to do is we used to get our movies together. And trust me, this led to a bunch of very awkward child fuck-ups that you make because you aren't an adult and you don't process information in the same way. For instance, my granddad liked war movies. the war movie
Oh,
everyone
no.
was talking
Come
about
on.
at the time was Platoon.
Take him right back to that motherfucker. Okay.
No, but like I couldn't understand it because I was watching Platoon, and I think it was particularly the scene where they smashed that villager's head in with a shotgun, going, "You ever seen brains like that, motherfucker?" Like this. And my grandfather is like horrified. He's just going, "Is this type of shit that wins Academy Awards these days? Is it like
He sounds basic.
yeah.
Like
He absolutely fucking. And I couldn't. I was like, but this must be a good war movie. And of course, realized many years later how ridiculously inappropriate it is for someone under 10 years old to be watching that film in the first place, and also how horrifically inappropriate to show a realistic depiction, or what at least in Oliver Stone's view was a realistic depiction of the Vietnam War and the horrors therein, to show to an actual war veteran who is from a generation of people that didn't deal with PTSD. So there was that. There was also I think it was also I think was it Leslie Nielsen's Dead and Loving It? No, it wasn't even that. It was National Lampoon's Class Reunion, which is the National Lampoon movie no one has seen. It is a comedy slasher movie. It is terrible. And there's a scene in it where a vampire goes down on a woman while she's menstruating. And I watched that with my grandmother. And was like, lol. These are the things that haunt you when you become a man, you know. But of course, as a kid, you don't understand any of this stuff, you know. It's a funny joke, blood. So anyway, the long and the short of it is, between that and my uncle was the only person in our family who had Sky TV, which Sky TV used to have a movie package, guys. And so he gave me a copy of Predator. He taped off the television, gave me a copy of fucking Robocop. I watched Terminator around at his house. So I had all of this like going into my brain, right? And what I realized was when you went down to get these movies, there were some movies up on the top shelf away from the other movies. And the premise of these movies was that they were something else. They were hardcore. They were like the ultra-violent horror movies, and maybe some of them might be real. And the first snuff film I ever became aware of was Faces of Death. Which Faces of Death, and again, it's meant.
I was going to say, at least that actually does contain real people dying. Because the famous one I always heard of was obviously Cannibal Holocaust. Joke is that is just a film.
We will get to our old friend Cannibal Holocaust, but one of the most ridiculous named movies of all time. But look, so Faces of Death, again for the nephews, Faces of Death was documentary film which just stitched together footage of people dying. It had an autopsy in there, if I remember, but it also had special effects artists portraying fake deaths as realistically as they could to hone their talent. And basically Faces of Death was this weird mingling of like news footage. I think that's the first time I ever saw the fucking, the guy from Hey Man, Nice Shot who fucking...
That's a really classic one.
It might have been that. But then again, they made about 10 sequels of this fucking thing. Faces of Death, Volume 8, all of this shit. And so that was the first time I'd ever really understood, like, you can watch people die. Like, actually just watch it. Like, so being aware of that as a child, that's like out there, is mental to even think about. And then, of course, as it got more and more into horror, I mean, I probably watched Cannibal Holocaust. So it must have been the DVD era. So I don't even know when that would be. But I would have been
Cannibal Holocaust was also one of those movies that, at least when I was a teenager, it was like the forbidden movie, right?
Oh,
like,
sure.
Is it real?
Well, this is the other thing.
Obviously
before we do get
not
to Cannibal
real.
Holocaust, let me also just add, in Britain, a number of movies were banned, and they were banned on the premise that they were too violent to witness. I mean, by the way, what else can you expect from a country that won't even let us jerk off now? Like, you can't even watch porn anymore. Like, fuck you, I guess. But anyway, and so one of these was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was banned in the UK for years and years and years. And if you remember the setup for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the greatest horror movies ever made, it says, like, oh, this is based on true events. It's that old classic trope of, we're going to say it's based on true events, but it isn't based on true events.
It's almost like they're pretending it's found footage.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And one of the things that I remember, again, being told as a kid, there was one kid, I think his nickname was Boogie, and he said he'd seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was real, and that you see people get fucking brutally chopped with a chainsaw. We were like, fucking hell, this kid's hardcore as fuck. Like, can you bring it around, Boogie? Can I have a copy? And nah, I can't sneak it out the house. Like, just like kids lying. Obviously, you've never seen it, and there's nothing like that in the film. I mean, it was a good little test that kids used to do to each other to prove if you'd actually seen the movie. You would ask people questions like, have you seen RoboCop? Yeah, you've seen that scene where RoboCop fucking has a fight with that bionic baboon. Oh, yeah, it's mental. Nah, fuck off, dickhead.
It is mad how, but one thing that people will always have to take for granted at this point in time, because in the modern kid will never be able to understand. You all have phones. You can just pull it out and Google it. Back then, if you were a convincing liar or someone was just young and naive enough, you could say any old shite to get away. Like, people really were. It's not a joke saying mad shit like that. Their uncle was Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. Like, that's real. Like, that was like a common thing. Lunatics who were just like attention seekers used to do. It was famous.
So ultimately, I think Faces of Death, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then Cannibal Holocaust. And just for those that don't know, Cannibal Holocaust is by the fucking lunatic Italian director Deodato. And he wanted, I mean, by the way, it inspired everything from Man Bites Dog, Blair Witch, famously. It's ultimately about a documentary team that goes into the deep, deep jungle, finds a tribe of people, and we're looking at it from the perspective of people reviewing the footage to try and find out what happened to them. And of course, as a title, Cannibal Holocaust might lead you to believe, it wasn't very good. Now, what was interesting about Cannibal Holocaust was Cannibal Holocaust actually does have animal slaughter in it.
Yeah, the turtle scene is tough to watch.
I mean, listen, anyone with just basic empathy for living beings will struggle with that. Because you are watching a turtle like have its shell smashed apart, and it's fucked up, and it's real. It's not an effect. This has been concluded. I think Deodato might have got prosecuted for fucking animal cruelty, and that was the predicate to ban Cannibal Holocaust. But I mean, ultimately, as a movie, it's super important for the history of cinema, but it also perpetuates this myth of the snuff film, which 8mm is based on. And just one more aspect of it before we actually talk about the film for real. There was a Japanese movie. It's called Guinea Pig / Devil's Experiment. Now, this is a fucking deep hipster pick. This is Richard, again, trying to flex on, I've seen crazy movies. But this movie is way more important than you would think. Basically, so first of all, from Japanese culture, it's a series of movies by a special effects artist and they made these movies deliberately grainy and just kind of dropped them out there to make it look like this was just an amateur recording of a series of torture / murders that somebody was perpetuating. And it's really realistic. This came out in the 80s, so I mean, let's just say the effects hold up. If you've seen Guinea Pig, the first one, you know what I'm talking about, and it's really brutal. It's pretty much any type of torture you could conceive of is happening, and it's all special effects work, amazing special effects work. But I'm talking fucking internal organs being pulled out. I'm talking fenestration. It's fucking grim, right? And anyway, in the 90s. Charlie Sheen got a copy of this movie and was convinced it was real. And there was a whole FBI investigation into this murder tape. And so that's really interesting when you consider the premise of 8mm. I don't think 8mm... By the way, Joel Schumacher would have been well aware of this. This is like early 90s. So Charlie Sheen, probably high on cocaine, watches Guinea Pig, becomes convinced it's real, calls the FBI. The FBI do an investigation into a Japanese horror movie, a low-budget Japanese horror movie. And ultimately, if you look at the setup for 8mm, it's kind of that. So, I mean, is it real? Is it, how are we going to find out who's in the movie? What are we going to do, man? Like, we've got to find this girl. Oh, this movie's 8 years
Also,
old.
Videodrome.
Yeah, and
by the way, Videodrome toys with this
yeah,
as well.
Videodrome for sure. But I think, like, you have to understand just how ubiquitous the urban myth of the Snuff movie was. And while Hardcore isn't essentially a snuff movie film, 8mm essentially at the end of the 90s brings to life something that many like people of our generation essentially grew up with as the equivalent of the boogeyman.
It was one of the the boogeymen, the fears of the age. I mean, this was all tied into like the satanic music. Play the record.
It's also so
backwards,
quaint by contrast because, I mean, look, in the internet era, if you haven't seen at least one beheading video, have you even been online? I mean, like, you know, the funny thing was, it really harkens back to a much more innocent time before content was so easy to access. And also, if you grew up in early era internet, there were no guardrails. I mean, we're the generation of Rotten.com and LiveLeak. And so, I mean, you know, it's really funny to think as a kid, we're all whispering to each other about, oh, did someone really get killed in that film? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it's like, by the time I'm 28, I've seen more beheadings than a fucking ISIS recruit. You know, it's crazy. So, I mean, like, it really is insane to sort of, this movie, to the younger generation of people that watch our content, this movie will seem almost silly, I imagine. Like, you know, it's not even that violent. It's not even that bad.
I can tell you that's actually one thing I found on the rewatch, Richard. It is still a good film, but I was actually the person who suggested this one for this arc. And I have to say, because I saw it in the 90s, it was a lot more powerful in the 90s when I saw it. Like, put it this way, even the things that, like, even just showing, like, the seedy underbelly was like, fuck, that's a bit much. You know, like, but now that will just seem quite passé to a lot of people. Like, that's just a category on a fucking porn website to them.
If you're of the generation that can't remember pre-internet, I imagine this will just not touch you in the same way. You have to be because
I agree. This was horrifying the first time I watched it, mate. Like I was right there with him when the fucking people are getting tortured, and when he realizes the movie's real, and like obviously, like there's another thing. It does still work. Look, the movie works still, but like the power, for example, of the scene where he beats James Gandolfini's character to death is like that was massive when you watched that in the 90s. That was fucking like that was like some epic like more. Because actually, one thing about this film, by the way, even though I said in general it's a straight thriller, it obviously does think that like it's sort of metaphysical work is going to be done in the world of things like, would you want to know if someone had been kidnapped from your family? Would you ever want to know? Would you want to live in the delusion? There's that part. Then there's the whole, obviously, by the way, towards the last arc, a third of the movie, leaning into the whole, if you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back into you and you must become a monster to hunt more. There's a lot of that going on there. Like that's another thing I will say. Those scenes where he's like keeps going back to his family, then going back to the like sort of the crime thing, that also hit a lot harder when you haven't seen a million movies about these topics.
Sure.
That was a lot more striking to me when I first saw it.
I also think as well, though, it's like, I mean, what I'll say about the tone of the movie is it's strange to say, but like the scenes with the family touch me more now as an older guy than they did at the time. I was like, you know, when you're young and you're in your 20s, you just want Nick Cage to go and fucking kill Frank Zabotka from season 2 with a wire. You know what I mean? Like that's what. By the way, when he takes that mask off and goes, "Why did you expect a monster?" All I hear in my brain is, "Why did you expect Zabotka?"
Would you expect a monster?
That's all I can ever fucking think of for the rest of my life, like, so whatever.
Also, that particular speech, Richard, probably the worst aged part of the film. Because again, if it's the first time you've watched it and you've encountered that idea, that's going to blow your mind. Yeah, wait, it's just a normal guy. In fact, he's just some loser with glasses. Yeah. No, but the problem is in the modern day, it's like, well, just some guy.
Of course he is.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's not that crazy.
No, even that. It's just, of course, they're losers. Like, you know, they deal in degrading.
And also, look, I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but they haven't set anyone else up that it could be. Like, if you were hoping it was going to be some character you saw earlier, who could it have been? There's no other fucking actor in the movie, is there? By the way, I'll even say, luckily, I can always suspend disbelief on this, Monty. But if you want to ruin any TV series for you for life, here's what you do. Either in the credits scroll at the beginning of a TV TV show, like a procedural or something, you know, Mentalist or fucking some CSI type thing, or just looking up on IMDb. The worst thing you can ever do is find out who the guest star is, because if the guest star, much as fucking Anthony Heald in this film, is only in it for a minute, well, they're not putting big movies actors in TV shows, Monty, if they're not the murderer at the end. You know what I mean? If he's only in the first scene and it's like fucking Patrick Stewart, spoiler, he's going to be the bad guy. Like, luckily, if you're watching this, you should already have seen the film, so that doesn't ruin the film for you. But that is the twist, isn't it? Like, again, why would he have only... Well, he's only in it for 5 minutes to play a lawyer. I don't know about that one. But okay, I can suspend the disbelief. I'll pretend they're just casting people in films now, guys. Like, you know, come on.
But yeah, like, it just is an unfortunate reality as well that, I mean... Look, we won't get too much into this. We're already probably skating on thin ice. But also, just the ubiquity of porn. I just think about how much porn I've seen. I'm not one of them people, by the way. I think a lot of the science around porn addiction's total bogus nonsense. I think it's been tacked on to a manosphere grift. You know, like I don't think it, like the whole Kuma brain thing. It's like, look, yeah, that definitely applies to some people, but just, you know, if you're exposed to porn, you're not just going to turn into like a fucking withered homunculus with a giant fucking forearm, you know, and that's all that's left of you, just some residual must cum. The way they fucking portray it's just ridiculous, right? But anyway, I'll say this. I had seen a lot less porn, and also, again, speaking from a British perspective, I don't know if there's an analogy to this in American culture, but speaking from a British perspective, porn was always kind of a little bit silly. And like British porn, it was always like, you know,
there's a very camp element
bend over,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
bend
exactly.
over,
Yes.
you know, and you know, like literally, there's a performer called Ben Dover, and you know, there was also kind of a, you know, it was very, because we were quite a repressed people in that sense, quite reserved, I should say, rather. There's also this aspect of, you know, when we had comedy shows like Kenny Everett or Benny Hill or, you know, whatever it might be, or that like Only Fools and Horses episode with the blow-up sex dolls, you know, all of this stuff, it was always just kind of under the surface, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know what I mean? Like, it was like that. And that's kind of what porn was. So back then in the 90s, you know, I'm obviously like 17 when this movie comes out, something like that. And yeah, you know, obviously I've seen porn by that point, but still, it kind of funny stuff, montages of,
this is pretty
montages of cum shots put to music that they put together for like the trailers and things like this. So this appeared quite seedy, this S&M world, this grimy world.
Well, you also
like,
would never make this film this way, because remember, the other thing he does, this is why he's actually a good director, by the way. He knows how to tell a story. What he does is, to have this guy investigate, he just shows you the seedy underbelly of all the levels of porn and how it's created, who buys it, who wants it, how do they even put it together. But I agree, Richard, the joke is in the modern day, you'd never make that because it's all on the internet. It'd all be some dark web shit in a chat room. You know, you wouldn't have to do this. You wouldn't have to go to a specific place and know the password and get in. And then you can see, and this level goes far. This goes to kids, but they wouldn't do snuff film. You know, again, the world he creates was a real world. It's just not really
that's the other aspect people don't understand. Like, porn was a physical thing that you had to have.
Yeah, of course.
Like, another experience. Sorry, just quickly, Monty. Another experience that a lot of kids have in the UK. Well, two common experiences if you're of a certain generation. One, you find the tattered remnants of a porn magazine in a bush.
In the woods,
always.
Famous.
Because that's where guys would go away from their wives to fucking jerk off and just leave it out there for kids to find. And the second thing, and this probably applies less, but if it might be finding your parents' porn stash, finding your dad's porn stash, like that's like a thing I did. I remember there was like a crawl space, and he had a bunch of videos in there, and it was like, what's this? Well, it's a fucking, what you used to call a blue movie, a bluey. You used to just put that on, and like, you know, obviously at a certain age, whenever they would go out, right, I'm getting in and put it back exactly where it was with the angle. You know, like, this is the type of experience that like you had because porn had to be physically owned. You couldn't just turn it on the telly. You couldn't just go to a computer and go, I want to jerk off
Well,
to this.
There's another thing they'll never understand, this generation. You think it's bad alt-tabbing? Try hurriedly getting a cassette out of a video thing, rushing it back to the hidden area before they look what you're doing.
Oh, no.
That'll give you, mate, the adrenaline spike that hits in your body, Richard. You understand now, women can lift the cars, the babies, everything.
Fortunately, we had a really long driveway, so
Right.
I had a,
You got the gravel, right?
so I had a bit more. I never got caught. But
Well, on the videotape thing, at least in America, obviously America was peppered with blockbusters, right? But it was the independent rental stores because there, in addition to the chains, there'd be our local stores,
Right.
and that's where they had the curtains, like the beaded curtains with the little porn room in the back and says 18 plus only on it.
Yeah, I mean that was the other aspect as well. As I said, I mean, people you could get porn. It was just you had to kind of know, even to get a pornographic magazine in 80s Britain, you had to know what to ask for and who to ask. And you would go to a newsagent and you would say, hello, I would like an adult magazine. No, okay, sir. Well, do you know which one you would like? Like, you're going through this insane... Like it is like a password thing. So when you when you start what the world Joel Schumacher brings to life in this film, I know for a fact it's a very real thing that did exist like this for a while. I mean,
oh yeah, and the porn store, by the way, people, I totally forgot about this because we take this all for granted, Richard. The fact that there is a porn store covered in porn and like sex toys, and then on top of that, there are literal guys. The Zoomers won't understand. There were actual masturbation booths in the porn stores where you either watch a peep show, like real people.
I mean, yeah, they're still going strong in
Well,
Amsterdam.
the most famous,
and
obviously, the most famous case
Going
ever is this is how Pee Wee Herman ruined his career, wasn't
went
it?
to an adult cinema.
Well, it was a porn theater.
Yeah.
No, but his problem was because he was a children's entertainer at the time. That was shocking, the idea. And he wouldn't even though, and by the way, in the UK, that used to even be misrepresented, Monte, as he just went into a normal theatre and just started jacking off in one film. Like, it was some insane, like, rumour of a rumour got round. But, also, the other thing is as well, to tie into something about the film, that's where Joaquin Phoenix's character is completely believable. Those people exist. Like, because the two things I love about his character is, one, the idea that you yourself might not even be super into porn and work. So, he's just some weird, like, punk type, effete character. That's just what he ends up doing. Is like, by the way, if it wasn't that job, it'd be the comic book store or fucking in the modern day Games Workshop or something weird like that. And also, the way the first introduction to him is so mundane. It's like, sir, would you like to buy a battery-powered vagina? That's also the other weirdest thing, Richard, like you're saying about the newsagent thing. It's not what people want to imagine, that you walk in and either it's like some devilish character. Would you like to live deliciously and experience the sensual delights? It's not that, but it's also not someone like, I'm sick. You want this thing here? No, it's a guy like, so what magazines do you want then? What do you want, like fucking, what you know, like gays or fucking black women or what? Like,
Sir, could I interest you in a battery-operated vagina?
Well, it's tempting, but no thanks.
Okay. I'd hate to see you caught in one of those everyday situations that calls for a battery-operated vagina and you just don't have one, you know what I mean?
I'll risk it.
Okay.
it's just someone asking, like, what fucking video game magazine you want, and then he just gets you in.
No,
the
but
joke is if it's just some newsagent, he himself might not
It's
even
a
watch
really
it,
good
just, hey,
observation, actually, because, you could essentially see, we're very hyper-aware about the desensitization mechanism now, and how, like, constant exposure and overexposure to certain types of content will reduce your reaction to it over time. And if it's something that you're interested in, might give you a propensity to go and expose yourself to stronger types of that material. But, like, this sort of isn't really... It's a fairly modern thing to understand. What Joel Schumacher gets with Joaquin Phoenix's character in this is that, if you were just taking this as a job, think about all the shit he's saying. Think about all the freaks and the losers. Like, by the way, who goes to another building to pay money to go into a booth and fucking jerk off? Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just mental. Like, just what a mental... I can stay at home and jerk off. You know what I mean? What the fuck? What?
I even like that thing, even though it's a stupid joke just thrown in, when he goes, hey, it's like the petrol station. You pay before you pump.
Yeah, you pay before you pump, yeah.
Go have a nice day. Hey, it's like a gas station. You pay before you pump.
Remember me?
Oh, yeah. Came back for the battery-operated vagina after all.
while he's just walking down the street.
You've got a point, mate.
Yeah, and it's like, but imagine if your job is to fucking essentially corral chronic masturbators. Like, you're going to assume everyone that enters the building is a freak on some level, and therefore there is nothing you can say that is shocking. But also, you yourself are now incapable of being shocked because you can only see it so many times. And so his almost like jaded, listless, want to buy a battery-powered vagina. It's so actually nailed on perfect. And Joaquin Phoenix in this film, you knew he was a star in the making. I mean, I also want to say as well, I don't know if I'm giving him too much credit here, but I think it might have been like at this time in his life, and I haven't even like brought up his bio, so I don't know here, because it's kind of a sidebar. But I, obviously, with everything that happened with River Phoenix and everything, I do wonder how kind of brave it was to even kind of like step into a movie that's about like porn and seedy underbelly and drug use, and maybe that wasn't something that entered into the equation at all. But I mean, it's like, you know, probably not a topic. That must be a very haunting thing to be from like a family of actors, but also like hippie peaceniks, which is why they've got all these like Native American names, and to then lose somebody that was on track to become like a big star, and it happened in that fucking Viper Lounge or whatever, and fucking, you know, they're all taking drugs, and it's all very public. One of the first big celebrity deaths I think I might have been exposed to, you know, growing up, like in terms of Hollywood. And remember, he was in Indiana Jones and the fucking Last Crusade. He was earmarked to be the next, like, Indiana Jones, potentially.
He was in Young Indiana Jones as well, the TV series, right?
Exactly. So, you know, would have been the normal transition. He could have always come back to that role, like a James Bond kind of character or something. So for Joaquin to kind of be this, like, second fiddle and then step into doing a movie like this is kind of crazy. But the star power absolutely is just, it's just reeking off him. Like, you.
By the way, that's another thing I forgot about in this film is, look, I get also, unfortunately, because of things like Game of Thrones, people now are used to the idea it's offer up main characters. Bro, the speed in which they use dispense with in this film is crazy, but it hits you because he has become like the figure within the movie you can also potentially either identify with, or like, you know, he's not a bad person, etc. The way they just kill him, like that was actually shocking when I rewatched it, bro. That does hit that scene.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I'll say this as well. What's interesting about it is essentially almost every character, because I agree, I think this is essentially just a black and white morality play when you just distill it down to its basic elements. It's got aspects of noir in it, it's got aspects of police procedural, and obviously for the time the content it's meant to be shocking. But, you know, if you identify with Nick Cage, which you're obviously supposed to, Nick Cage is like you. They do this thing, by the way. At first, I thought it was a stylistic choice. Now I think it might just be bad. But the very opening scene, he has a dialogue with his wife, and the way it's filmed, the sound is bad. It sounds like you've just put the camera mic on and in the room and it's echoing. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a really clever stylistic choice to like do that in the opening interaction between Nick Cage and his wife, because it makes it feel real. And so you believe they have a real and authentic relationship. And then I noticed it in a couple of other scenes that weren't Nick Cage and his wife. And I was like, oh, okay, someone just fucked up. The sound guy just needs to get fired. But whatever. Let's pretend it's a stylistic choice. Nick Cage is you. Nick Cage is the guy who steals a cigarette and then lies to his wife about it. Nick Cage is the fucking guy that's got the job that breaks him down, but he's always phoning in.
Oh, I forgot that. You're right. The biggest problem he has at the beginning, Richard, is you're not smoking again. We've got a fucking kid here. It's like by the end, he's like killing fucking child murderers.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, also on top of that as well, it's like, it's cliche, but the smoking as a mechanism, not a mechanism, the smoking as a representation of his psychological state. Because, like, look, smoking is something you quit because you have a child now and you have to think about their relationship. So when he is not smoking, he's doing it for the child, and that represents his movement towards the family. By the end, he's chain smoking, which shows he is becoming more and more untethered from the life he's meant to have as a good man. It's like one of those little metaphor things that you just slip in.
Well, I think it's also to show that he's leading a double life. And I think at the start, of course, he is smoking and he's lying about it because it's like what she doesn't know can't hurt her. But by the end of the film, what she doesn't know can hurt her big
No,
time,
yeah,
right?
sure.
Because the reason why he has to go out and deal with James Gandolfini and the machine, right, is that if he doesn't kill them,
It's just weird
they
because
will
obviously
kill
I know Alex, so it's like whenever when we go back into the esports world, it's like coming up now, Sponge and Machine. Every time it just flashes up in my head. Like, are we going to cut to him and he's going to be in a gimp mask, topless or whatever? So, but yeah, but
Does he have the pentagram tattooed on his hand?
Also
that seems like something he would do. Honestly.
I mean, listen, pentagrams are back. They're so back. But no, I mean, look,
No, that's how you even know it's a good thriller. I can even forgive the absurdity that starring in snuff films, you'd have an incredibly identifiable tattoo, but wouldn't cover it. I can even forget that. It's not
Just
you
wear
say
a
it now,
glove.
Monty. I realise that's obviously absurd, but at the time I didn't mind it. It's all right.
I mean, also as well, I'll just say every time. I've watched this movie a few times, probably more than I should, but it's one of the things, like, all roads for me lead back to that fucking scene in True Detective. Because you know how, like, Nick Cage watches the movie at the start and he's like going, like, 'cause what he's seeing is so horrifying. Well, obviously, in season 1 of True Detective, they go and they get that.
The one where they're in that lockup and they see they do a way better job though. They kill it with
Yeah,
I know what you mean. His is sort of like
there's only one silly
like
scene.
that.
There's only one silly scene. True Detective is pretty much a perfect TV series, but it has exactly one silly scene that shouldn't be in it, and it's when they're on the boat and they get that sheriff and they make him watch the tape. Right, of the girl that's been killed, the VHS tape that Matthew McConaughey's been keeping in his secret lockup, which just has Carcosa and all this stuff there. And he goes, "Why are you showing me this?" And he like screams so ridiculously loud. And it like cuts away. It's like, just move your fucking eyes, dickhead! Like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you screaming? It's the one scene that's just ridiculous. But obviously, like, I now realised in that moment, I was just laughing at myself watching this movie, going, "Fucking hell, Nick Cage, you're everywhere, mate. You've even done that in True Detective, have you?" So, but I mean, look, I'll say as well, like, Nick Cage's performance in this movie is a bit janky. This isn't Nick Cage.
We'll put it this way: the framing is perfect for when we've recorded these, because we've just watched like really good Leaving Las Vegas. That's like a rare example of him like sort of engaging. But before that, we've had The Rock, where he's at his cheesiest. In this one, bearing in mind after this film where you actually watched adaptation, right, mate? That's only 3 years later, and he is levels above. Like this is like
phoned this in.
On this one, he is hitting some sort of a roof. Like, he's not going beyond a certain level of range. Because I know what you mean. Like, I do think this movie would have become an actual classic if he could have, like, carried the emoting scenes better. Whereas, like, the rest of it, just being the PI, I can take that. But, like, I know what you mean. The scenes where, like, I'll give you an example. Even though it is powerful that, like, he kills the James Gandolfini character, if you'd have had some shit hot actor, though, be the one who, like, calls and asks for the permission and then goes in and forces himself to do it, like, that could have been such a powerful scene, whereas it was just kind of an all right scene in this for me.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely spot on, and I think this is the problem. I remember having watched this movie and kind of just being like, bouncing off it. I don't think it's a fucking 24%. It's not a 2 out of 10 film. That's mental.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good movie. Like, there's nothing wrong with this movie.
It's a film, like we say, it's in the sweet spot. It should be like a 6 to 7 or something. It's some sort of film.
But I would say like 6 out of 10. Like I don't regret having watched this movie. I found it enjoyable to watch. There's just not a lot there.
But like I say, I mean, for me, the Nick Cage performance, where it falls flat is in those moments. Like, I need to know Nick Cage is a new father being tortured at the prospect of having to see somebody's daughter being murdered on film for nothing more than sadistic pleasure. And then when he's given the opportunity to punish the people responsible, even if it's going to cost him his soul, it's going to be worth it. It's going to balance the cosmic scales of justice in some really profound way at the cost of his own humanity. That's something you can get behind with a better actor. That can be a really powerful scene, but unfortunately, it just isn't.
I'll go.
It just isn't.
I'll defend Nick Cage here a little bit. I think for me, also he wasn't given enough material to work with from the screenplay in order to have those moments. For me, the biggest fumble of this film is at the very end when her mother, the victim's mother, writes the letter, and it's just a voiceover talking about how
they didn't
I
even
guess
need
we were
that.
the only
I
two
don't know why that was
who
needed
really
in the
cared
movie.
about her. So first off, if you're going to have that, you need to have the scene where they have the conversation where they say, I guess you were the, because Richard, the moment you're making a case for here is absolutely right, where he as a new father should be talking to her who lost the child, and they should now be
that they
commiserating.
have zero chemistry and barely any interactions is crazy.
But they're not given a chance to have chemistry because he's lying to her about who he is when he goes there to get information, right? And it's so weird too because he finds the journal and then they don't have a conversation about the journal, but we understand that he gives her the journal. It's like those scenes between the two of them should have been the emotional core of this movie, but we just get robbed and it's just done via like voiceovers and letters, which is like a really shit way to do it. So that is a disappointment, and it definitely does take away from the film.
I mean, I think overall, I can agree with that to some extent, but the point is Nick Cage still has two scenes in this movie where he gets to show his acting chops, and he falls flat in both of them, unfortunately. And look, is he the worst thing in this movie? No, that will be Norman Reedus, who in a part where he has about 2 minutes of screen time manages to be absolutely awful. Amazing the career he's had. By the way, don't dislike the guy, but fucking hell, he is trash in this film. Like actually jarringly so.
I mean, just because I was fucking her in high school doesn't mean I wanted her out there. She came to Hollywood to be a big fucking movie star. And so did I. Check me out now.
Now, if I were to meet Machine from 8mm, I can't imagine he would be smelling too good. So you know what I'd do? I'd recommend him some Mando, our sponsor here on Foreplay. What is Mando? Well, it's great deodorant and soaps, men's grooming products just for you. So if you've been looking to mix up your grooming regimen, now's a great time to get a starter pack from Mando. Come in a lot of manly scents like bourbon leather here. This is a nice one. I also really like the Clover Woods. They have stick deodorant, but they also have spray-on deodorant, cream tube deodorant, as well as body wash and bar soap. So a lot of different products. They've got you covered for your grooming needs. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. Comes with a solid stick deodorant, one of these, cream tube deodorant, which is a lotion. And I really like that one because you can rub it into anywhere you get body odor. So not just your pits, but maybe your feet or your grundle. So you get one of those and 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash and deodorant wipes. I would recommend you pick up those deodorant wipes. Super useful if you can't hit a shower and you start to smell if you're out camping or you need to freshen up before going out. That's a great option. I really have appreciated those. They get rid of the BO immediately. And you also get free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code FOREPLAY, FOURPLAY, at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them Foreplay sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness.
But, I mean, look, what actually pads this out is, fortunately, it's got a bunch of really talented character actors in the film that really augment the fact that I think Nick Cage's performance is flat. I mean, it goes without saying. James Gandolfini playing a sleazy porn merchant, absolutely fucking perfect. Joaquin Phoenix.
By the way, he may as well literally just be Tony Soprano in the scene. Like, did you fuck me? Did you fuck me? Like, come on. Yeah. And he also does, by the way, one of the best. This is what Rick and Morty were playing on. One of the best. Do it. Just kill me, motherfucker. Like, we're doing one of the best. Challenge the person. It's a weird Hollywood trope. I'll never understand Monte. The idea the villain challenges you to shoot them. I'll never understand that American obsession with that. But he does a really good version of that in this film.
What do you want me to do? You want me to start crying like a little baby? I'm so sorry. I killed a little girl. Fuck you and fuck her. Go ahead. Put me out of my fucking misery. Pull the fucking trigger. Come on. Come on, pull the fucking trigger. Do it! Do it!
Yeah, I mean, listen, and obviously the fucking the guy whose name I can never remember, but it's Peter Stormare, I think.
Dino Velvet.
Yes, I mean, by the way,
he's great.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate Joel Schumacher character, right? Dino Velvet, Snuff movie procurer.
Dino Velvet.
The only thing is, though, guys,
velour
I have to say
BDSM
one
man.
thing, though. The only one problem I have with that is this. Look, part of it I can actually buy. Like, if you know the kind of dickheads who do that type of porn, not snuff films, but like extreme porn, or they are all in their own fucked up sense believing that they're just like one stage below being like, you know, an art house director, and they are. But the idea that even while he's like dying, Monte, he's just sort of like still giving lines and that, like, and that bit's a bit chewing the scene.
That was
you know
bad.
what I mean? Like,
Kill them all.
Like the way he looks at himself when he gets shot.
Kill
I know exactly. Like,
machine.
I know.
Oh God, not like this. I'm supposed to have something more cinematic. Kill the machine. Kill them all.
I know. He gives order whatever from Star Wars, basically.
Actually love that. Totally fuck with that. Like, that's fine. That's an appropriate level of performance.
I mean, the fact that they kill each other with a crossbow and then a pistol is also ridiculous.
I mean, sure. I mean, look, there are some, let's say, stylistic flourishes in this fucking thing that don't necessarily need to be there. But I mean, look, Peter Stormare is one of those people who were just fucking slept on as like an actor, and he crops up in these super interesting films. I mean, like, obviously where he really stood out was Fargo. Fargo was a few years before this, where he is just like one of the insanely underrated villains. Barely says anything, and then, you know, fucking just wood chippers someone, and it's kind of crazy. But he's really good. Like, he adds just a bit of.
He's always good in these weird, like, creepy roles. Like him in Minority Report as the guy who swaps out Tom Cruise's eyes. He's just great.
I
he's great.
He does a type of seediness. Like, he's got two gears essentially, which makes him sound like he's not a good actor, but he does these two things so well, it's actually crazy. If you need an off-kilter, slimy, sleazy, visibly makes your skin crawl villain, he's your man. Like, I mean, obviously people might know him from Prison Break as well, I think. But I mean, like, just go look at his filmography. It's just mental. He's played so many of these like crazy villains. But the other thing he does really well is like a doctor, you know, type person, someone who's like, so I'm a bit scientific and well educated, and he has this.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's Lucifer in Constantine as well, which is like exactly this role where he's just like dripping the black goo.
Bro, if you've ever played Until Dawn, he's the fucking doctor in that. He's the guy that talks to you while you're going through making all your decisions and stuff. So I mean, like, this guy's had, like, you talk about cultural impact. Like, he's that guy. You know when you see a movie and you go, oh, it's that guy. He's that guy, and he's that guy in this film, and it adds some much needed color, because I do want to say, until he's introduced into the movie, it's kind of a little bit flat tonally. It is taking itself just a bit too seriously. seriously. You might argue, Richard, this is about a private investigator trying to uncover a horrifying murder that was recorded in a snuff movie. But there has to be a silliness to this. There has to be, like, you know, just a little bit, just a sprinkle. It doesn't have to go as mental as it does, probably. But
by the way, Joel Schumacher does the silliness really well.
Yeah, this is when
he knows when to ham it up.
Remember, he did do that weird, sexy saxophone guy in The Lost Boys, which even though it fits, it is just such a weird scene in that film, which is again also a real movie about, like, you know, youth culture and vampires. And it's just got this guy like it's ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, look, the tone this movie gets to is prime Schumacher. It's the Schumacher zone. Like, he absolutely, you know, a giant gimp who's, you know, a giant gimp doing the murders.
The joke is a lot of his films are that meme of, like, the writer's barely this guy's face. It's like, Joel, I think I could already guess. I know all the clubs you've been to in LA, mate.
Exactly.
Come on, homie.
And look, on that note, I've got to give a special shout out to Chris Bauer, who, as I said, I think he's an actor that it's mad that it took him so long to have, like, his kind of glow up. Really, really good character actor. And he'd been in a bunch of fucking roles where he had these tiny little blink and you'll miss it roles, and obviously, like, this might be one of the first times he had, like, sustained presence in the movie. But he is in a bunch of good fucking films around this time period, and he again, just another that guy. Like, he's in you ever seen it's the movie based on the book by Eddie Bunker, I think, Animal Factory. It's a prison movie.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, mad prison movie, like, totally slept on. You know, it's weird because, like, every 10 years you'll just get a really low-key prison movie about the horrors of the American prison system, like Shot Caller or something, and it'll just drop, and The Escapist with Brian Cox, and it'll just drop, and, like, no one will promote this movie because it's like, well, it's just a prison movie in America, people are beating each other up and things are happening in the showers that are really unpalatable, etc. But the Animal Factory is mental. He's in a movie with...
The cast is also really legit.
Mickey Rourke's in it.
You would watch it. Yeah,
Mickey Rourke, Danny
Edward
Trejo.
Furlong.
Yeah, sounds good.
Mickey Rourke, another one. True.
Yeah, it's a bonkers film. And
it's got a legit,
he's in that. Yeah. He's just in that, playing one of the...
Oh, Steve Buscemi. Yeah. He's got everyone in there. Yeah.
He's just in that, play, you know, alongside all of those, like, big names. I'm trying to think what else. Shit. I mean, like, obviously everyone knows him from The Wire TV.
I mean, he was in True Blood as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, sorry, he's in True Blood. Yeah. There you go.
I mean, the Wire is really where he like rose to prominence. Like, because low key, I hated season 2 of The Wire at the time. I don't want to say hated it. I did. No. Listen. At the time, I'd watched season 1 of The Wire.
I love that
I'd been
season.
brought in, and then you give me a bunch of motherfuckers that are just working on boats and drinking in bars. This is my life, motherfucker. Like, I've seen those guys. It was just mines for me, not being a stevedore. But then what I realised was, like, that's the season that holds up the most to rewatches. And the tragedy of Frank Sobotka, Union Man, with 2 inches of raging blue steel between his legs. That's one of the best story arcs in all of the...
I think it's also really important in The Wire because it shows, you know, that it's not just one neighborhood of Baltimore, that it's interconnected into...
I didn't realise that at the time. I just wanted to see more fucking
legit
Walmart,
industries.
Didn't I? You know what I mean? I just, like...
That's true. I feel that.
I just want it to be back there. I want to know what's happening. Then obviously you get the silly cartoonish season 3 with Brother Moo's Own, and like, listen, I'm not saying The Wire is bad. The Wire is still one of the greatest TV series ever made, but there are aspects to it that, you know, it hasn't aged as poorly as Breaking Bad, which I actually think might be a bad TV series now that is essentially held up by Bryan Cranston.
And another series
position since it was released.
Another series where I'm convinced a lot of people are just living off nostalgia, literally from 20 years ago. They haven't rewatched it.
It gave us Better Call Saul. It gave us Better Call Saul. So it's okay.
And I have a theory that, my opinion is, I think a lot of people who revere that series, that was the first, like, prestige series they saw. They just hadn't seen The Wire and
never seen
Sopranos and all that. No, if they'd have seen the other ones, it wouldn't be as... That's why to them it's so crazy. It's like, bro...
I think it just depends on how you... how you view it. Like, I think it's actually a very funny black comedy, but if you think it's a real drama with like Gus Fring and exploding wheelchairs, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's just it's an absurd comedy.
Now, the reason I teed all this up is there's a TV series, a prestige TV series by David Simon. And because of how well Chris Bauer did in The Wire, they cast him in a pretty important role, and it's called The Deuce. And if you've not seen The Deuce, it bangs. It's actually really, really good. I don't want to put you off. It is James Franco in a lead role, not once, but twice, because he plays twins. He's okay. He's good. He does it. He does enough. It's fine. But what's really interesting is how it draws you in to, funnily enough, something analogous to this movie, which is what they call the golden age of porn, which is when in New York everything got legalized in the 70s. And what this led to was basically a rise in the porn market, which then led to a rise in the sex work market, just in time for the 80s AIDS crisis. And so it talks about that over 3 seasons with big time jumps. It shows these are the characters that live in this like golden age of the 70s, and how it all gets fucked up. It all gets fucked up by the time the 80s come rolling around. It's wonderful, and the story arc Chris Bauer has in that is just fantastic. He starts as a guy who works in a construction company, has a heart attack, and I thought, that's it, he's out of the series now. But then he lives through it, and then he starts working in the nightclub, and then later works for the mafia in a prostitution ring. And he loves it. He's there all the time. He's estranged from his wife. He's playing cards with the hookers. He's fallen in love with some of them, and like he's brilliant, wonderful actor. And as I said, he delivers the line. What did you expect? A monster. He delivers it perfect, but unfortunately, it's an inherently silly line, and it's really silly. It's a really silly one. It's like the mask finally comes off. Yeah, he's not going to be a gnarled monster. It's not a monster movie. It's not fucking Hellraiser. He's not going to be a Cenobite, is he? Like, it's just so silly, unfortunately. But he did great work with the material, also as well. You always remember Machine. He's called Machine. There should be he should be hench and jacked, but for Joel Schumacher, who probably just loved leather daddies, this is what he considers a muscle man. It's like Chris Bauer is not that, mate. Frank Zabotka in a gimp mask is not a muscle. He's not like an intimidating presence, is he? I don't even think he's 6 foot tall. It's fucking mental. So anyway, the silly aspects are there, but the cast are brilliant. The cast are really, really good, and they're working with some silly material, and everyone apart from Nick Cage in those key scenes and Norman Reedus, who is fucking heinous, everyone understands exactly the tone of the movie. And that's what this movie does well. It draws you into a world that at the time, in the 90s, you wouldn't know about. You wouldn't know about this world. You fucking shouldn't, you sicko, right? And it brings it to life. It gives it a vibrance and a relatability. And it does that through the mechanism of, first of all, Nick Cage, but then crucially, Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is the every guy. He's you in your retail job. It just so happens his retail job is adjacent to some of the foulest shit on planet Earth. And listen, do you want to know about it? Do you need to learn about it? Okay, I'm your man. I'll guide you through it like fucking Virgil in Dante's Inferno. I'm going to take you through the...
Those are some great scenes in this movie, though, for him to like be the as you say, Virgil in this situation, and bringing him down to those basements.
The best scenes in the movie
are
it's great. Again, I don't want to say buddy cop elements, but I suppose you could. It's Joaquin Phoenix and Nick Cage, and how that you can see them slowly warming up to each other and having respect. Nick Cage starts to care about him and doesn't want him to get into trouble. All of those scenes are wonderful in this film, like actually good scenes. And you can see how it just teed up Joaquin Phoenix for better things, because I'm not saying this is a top 10 like Joaquin Phoenix performance. I'm not saying it's his slept on performance. No, it's none of those things. What it is, though, is an introduction to an actor who's one of the best actors of his generation. And it also gives you an insight into what people talk about in Hollywood, which is that X factor. you're drawn to Joaquin Phoenix in this movie, maybe more so than Nick Cage. Nick Cage is an established Hollywood actor.
He's the most interesting character in this movie by a large margin.
Yeah, I think so. And but also, as I said, he's just got something about him, an interesting look, like that whole scar. He says definitely isn't a cleft palate, but almost certainly is. Don't know why you would lie about it, but whatever. He's got that scar on his lip, but it's not quite as pronounced as it is now, and he's a little bit chubbier. He's got that baby fat because he's younger, and he's just got this look about him. And when you consider that this is the guy that's going to go on, he plays one of the all-time great villains ever in Commodus, and it goes on to be this fantastic character actor, like one of the best method actors active in Hollywood right now, kills it in almost every role. By the way, when was the last Joaquin Phoenix movie that he was shitting? Could you even? I suppose. Well, I mean, was he shitting Joker 2? Or was Joker 2 just fundamentally?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I assume he wasn't great at it.
I mean, listen. All I'm going to say in that one is,
I mean, even in Napoleon, I thought he himself was fine.
He was all right.
Yeah.
He was trying to do something with it. You could see he had some sort of an angle.
That was unfortunate. That was just the Ridley Scott coin coming up tails that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, all the scenes with him. Like, in fact, actually, you know what? All the good scenes in this movie are the scenes where Nick Cage is interacting with a better actor. Like James Gunn.
Which is why we, of course, included it in our Nick Cage arc.
Yeah, no, but it's like, listen, I wanted to go harder and show the other side of the coin, because obviously the final movie in the arc is one of his seminal performances. It's like an absolute masterclass of acting. And as I say, like, just to tack it on to the James Franco point, if you are an actor and you are going to play twins or multiple roles as different people, you better be good. You better be good. There's nothing
Which
worse.
Also, I've talked about this
Eddie
before,
Murphy
but
in like Nutty Professor playing a whole family.
No. The bottom of the barrel is still The Man in the Iron Mask, where Leonardo DiCaprio plays himself and his twin, where he completely fucking ruins what could have been a quite good movie with it. I mean, the cast of actors he has around him is insane. And he, by himself, basically just ruins.
I mean, look,
film.
you have to understand when you
sad.
play multiple roles in a movie, you must absolutely be transformative, because think about the company you are immediately putting yourself in. You are Alec Guinness in Kind Hearts and Coronets. You are Peter Sellers in Doctor Strangelove. So you better not fucking suck, because I'm seeing you not once, but twice, or maybe more times. You better be good. You better be capable of creating three-dimensional humans that are distinct and different from each other. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of actors, it's like, I want to show my range. Script, twins, yeah. Like, fucking hell's bells. Like, didn't Van Damme do a movie where he was twins? I don't fucking know.
I think so, yes.
It was called like Double Trouble or some fucking shit.
Double Impact,
there you go.
I think that's
oh, my fucking God. So, look, you've got to be very, very careful with it. And I think ultimately, there's a class of actor that can do it and a class of actor that can't. But look, the actors in this film are really, really good. I mean, like, it's a great cast. And when Nick Cage interacts with those other actors, the movie comes alive and it's real good. His interactions with James Gandolfini, great. His interactions with Dino fucking Velvet, great. Joaquin Phoenix, talk about him all day. I even think the interactions with his wife, there's a naturalistic.
By the way, isn't actually in the film very much. No. She's quite a famous character actress herself. She's been in a lot of great movies. She's not really in it much. She only has a few. She doesn't really have a lot to do herself.
Yeah, Catherine Keener. Yeah. She's done a lot of stuff, actually.
I mean, the joke is she was in Being John Malkovich, speaking of the connections.
And then also adaptation.
Yeah.
All ties together. But I mean, absolutely, when Nick Cage interacts with another actor, the movie shines. When Nick Cage has to monologue or do voiceover or facially act because he's reacting to something that is horrifying, or he's on a phone, please let me hurt him, let me punish him for you. It's like, oh no, the movie's kind of bad now.
I want to punish them for what they did.
What are you saying?
I can hurt them. Give me your permission to hurt them, please. Tell me how much she meant to you.
please, can we get back? Can I have more James Gandolfini? Can it turn out Joaquin Phoenix was just doing special effects and he's alive at the end? Something, please. Like, you know, but no, you don't get any of that, unfortunately. Nick Cage has to carry the film it's particularly towards the end, where I think, look, if you want to talk about the structure of the movie draws you in really well. It sets up the world really well. It brings it alive really well. There's a fucked up, grimy believability to some of those things, like when they're going to those, like, almost like car boot sales and fucking, it's just people with, like, just sticky Polaroids and, like, you know, just horses written on them, and you're like, oh, fucking hell, get me out. Like, you know, all of that feels real. And then it gets silly, but that's okay, because the actors are good, and they're good in silly roles, and it's Joel Schumacher. I've got to get a little bit of silliness out of my Schumacher movie. But then at the end, the final scene, the final standoff, setting it up as a 1v1 mano-y-mano with Nick Cage versus Machine. He's fucking mental. What did you expect? A monster?
Also, it's just shot really badly too.
There's not a weird.
He goes into the house, and then we have to wait so long for him to creep upstairs, and then there's the record, and it's playing, and he goes in, and then it's over, and then he leaves, and then the record starts playing again, and then he gets ambushed. It's just like it's very the suspense of the sneaking.
You've also seen that film.
Very badly.
You've seen that scene 1 million. It's the bad version of the fucking Silence of the Lambs scene where she's in his house, and you know the problem is the suspense. Like, first of all, that's another area where Joel Schumacher does lean into sort of like sometimes silly Hollywood tropes. It's like the idea that in every Hollywood film, if you're evil, you also just naturally have supernatural powers. Like the second someone enters your house, you can just know someone's entered the house by a radar and turn the radio off. And then even though you're both in the dark, you can always get the jump on them. It's like, give me.
I'm evil. I live here. I was born in it. It's just ridiculous.
Like, the joke is, he could have had a scene after this where he escapes, drives to the airport, gets on a plane, goes to Brazil. When he gets off at the airport, he's waiting for him to check baggage. Like, you know what I mean? It's fucking Bugs Money, mate. You know
with
what I mean?
With a mask on and a TSA uniform. What did you expect?
This movie did make me realise, though, that literally that is an element of Hollywood film, though. Like, it actually reminds me that I put it this way: if you wanted to do the like nerd legion angle, the silliest part is the idea that as you're about to kill this guy whose literal gig is, I'm the bull in porn movies and I murder you if you give me enough money, the idea what would motivate him to be talking back to you in the thing about like, and what did you think, like I was some sort of a monster? No, why would he be doing that? But this is where, Monte, I get that there is an artifice to Hollywood film. It's a bit like a fucking theatre play. Yeah, sometimes you have to actually verbalise what you want the audience to hear. It's really hard to just infer everything. Or again, narrator, it's always a fucking gamble itself, mate. You fuck up with a narrator, as you see from that letter. It removes all the power. So in a weird way, I get why they're saying all that. So you understand it's more than just a fight. There's sort of like a metaphysical battle going on here. But I also agree with Richard. I actually think the worst part of the film, the part that holds up the least, is the part where he has James Gandolfini tied up and then he calls up the mother. Although I'll say, I do thought it made an interesting point, which is one thing that this movie didn't try to really overtly make us a point, but I think it's actually implied within this scene, is people always miss this. It's one thing I've never understood about American culture. American culture is so uptight about sex, or at least it was, as we discussed in the first section of this. But then with violence, they think of that is nothing. I've always thought that scene is an example of how violence is its own form of pornography.
It is, yeah.
Like, in order to be heinous and kill this person, right? It's not enough that the whole movie's set up as he has to do it because he now lives in a world where he has a young daughter and you've got to protect them from these monsters. That's not even enough, Monty. He needs this woman, almost like he's getting off in his own righteousness, to like articulate how much she loved her now butchered daughter, and it's only that sort of fuel that's going to give him the energy to go in and be a monster himself. But there's a disturbing element to that. He's almost taking like a weird relish in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. Tell me how much you loved her. Like, there's something weird about that. So again, by the way, if you'd have nailed that with a shit hot actor, that scene could be like. By the way, an obvious parallel I would draw to this film would be the film that we reviewed, Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve. Think about how good the actors in that film are, mate. If you'd have given, again, like Jake Gyllenhaal or Hugh Jackman, that material, mate, they'd have made a fucking godlike scene. Nick Cage comes off a bit flat, I'm with you, even though the stakes in the film are incredibly high at this point. That's an area where you just can't go to that level, though. He's just stuck at like a 7 or something.
Really,
I agree, this is the worst Nick Cage film we've read.
Yeah.
Still a good film.
Really, really good analogy actually to the prisoners.
Yeah, it's a good comparison to that Hugh Jackman, Paul Dano scene where he's like in the shower.
Because it's like, look, ultimately, like, yeah, we understand the stakes and we understand why Hugh Jackman is willing to go to these places and what it is doing to Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
And it's sort of, you just don't get any of that with Nick Cage here. It's like, listen, you know, it's really just almost like the movie's telling you, like, down the home straight, like, how you should feel about it. You know, it's like, what do you expect a monster? See, he's not a monster, he's just a regular man, but sometimes men are monsters, aren't they? Like, I get it, Joel, for fuck's sake. Like,
but he's a huge fan of dancing. Why have you done that? What's wrong with dancing? Fuck you, Joel Schumacher. You play your shit saxophone music, you wanker. I know. Why?
Yeah, mental.
What's wrong with being a fan of dancing?
No, well, listen, you know, so but nothing wrong with being a fan of Danzig, but everything wrong with being Danzig. So, you know, you figure that riddle out. But anyway, unfortunately, like, Nick Cage at the end, I don't even really feel. He just doesn't feel like truly transformed. There isn't an authenticity.
I actually, you know what? I'll do my old Lee and Herring extra files. If you notice, mine tend to be I'm the guy who does. I increase by subtracting. I'm the Bruce Lee approach. I would edit this film. My director's cut is I take out the last scene with the fucking him going back into his wife and looking at her like, we already get it, mate. You want to be back in their lives, but you become a monster because you've had to kill someone, but you can't tell them about it, and you did it all for your daughter. But in the same time, you realise you put your daughter. No. By the way, I take all that out. I would just end the movie where he basically, like, on that scene where he goes into the house before he finds her. I would just have it. The house is empty. That's it. And what you leave the movie as is, you don't know. Has he lost them forever? We don't know. You don't get to find out. He comes home. I'd have it. He comes home to an empty house though. They do the fake twist where you think it's empty, but then the woman's in the other room and then he cries. I wouldn't have that resolution. I actually think the film's more powerful if you don't know. By the way, in the end, did he actually sacrifice his real life family to hunt down someone else's monster? No one else in the movie, by the way, gives a fuck except the mother of the I would leave it like that.
Here's how
That's
I would end the
powerful
movie,
ending.
right?
I think the ending they do, like you say, is they try to land the plane, deboard everyone, go through customs, put the plane back in the hangar, and at the end go, le fin. Like, that's too obvious, mate. You know
how I would have ended the movie is he's beaten Machine to death, right? Fucking, he's killed him. He fucking drops the body down on the chin, and then the mother of the daughter steps out and she's holding a movie camera and said, "Now you're in this."
Yeah, I was gonna say you got to get her involved in the killing, right? She needs the like.
I just made the sequel, motherfucker. Well. And then that,
and then also you get the instead of the widow committing suicide, she also is.
And they're all like,
is there
they're all
watching.
clapping. It's like the end of Kill List with all.
and then since all right, boys, and then since obviously James Gandolfini is dead and Nick Cage now has potentially lost his family, he then goes into the old offices of that like fucking James Gandolfini, and he just puts on his like leather jacket, like, well, you know what?
And then he puts on the mask.
He just turns the camera, goes, and if the shoe fits, and then it just fades out. And Joel, hit the line, mate. We can get the rebate.
Exactly. He puts on the jacket, and then he just looks to like a hooker, and he just starts unzipping his fly. Like, and that's just it.
Just goes, well, it's not going to suck itself, is it?
That's how it ends. The title crawl.
By the way, I also love that scene as well.
Actually, a better ending,
unironically. I still don't really understand what the purpose of this scene is, Monty. You know the scene where it shows, again, he set up the stakeout, he's got in the office opposite where James Gandolfini operates, and he's slightly above, and he's looking in through his window. The idea that, like, James Gandolfini's character's like, "Oh, suck my dick," and then him and that woman just look out like, and that woman's looking out the window like, "Oh, mate, you either see me or I don't," but they haven't seen him. That's the weirdest thing. It's such a weird scene, mate. It's like, what is
I know.
this?
That is the mad part. Like, you're up in this massive building.
I know.
Like, also,
why would you care?
You're a porn merchant.
You even care?
Yeah.
You're a porn merchant getting sucked
Mate,
up.
it's one or the other, isn't
even
it?
care?
You either, because it's your getting your dick sucked room, just have the curtains and blinds drawn already, or you just go, "I agree, Richard, in for a penny, in for a pound." At the end of the day,
He makes porn. He's literally making porn in real life for the other people to look at through the window. Why would he hide it? Why would he hide it?
That is crazy. If anything, you want people to watch. Like, you know,
exactly.
So, that was mental. It would be better, by the way, if he fucking opened the curtains, was being sucked off, and then he like that. Nick Cage, like, hey,
finger guns
while he's blowing his beans. That would have been. See, there's loads of ways you could improve this movie. But yeah, I mean, look, I gotta say, like, This was the one I was kind of reticent about on the arc, but yeah, Duncan's nailed it. It is in that sweet spot. Now, I want to add.
And it's also fair that we put in an actual not that great Nick Capone. Too many good ones. Like, I don't want to spin it the idea. Like I make this point every time we big him up. Like he certainly has some trash ass movies, and some way he's not very good either. Like he isn't some like. Here's the difference. I've told you in the past. I've watched the people who went into the fucking wilderness of Hollywood, like the fucking Robert Downey Jr. and Mickey Rourke, and I can confirm even when they're in a shit film, they can be sick, man. They can just be like acting everyone's fucking pants off, and you can't touch them. So no, Nick Cage can be quite average. Like the joke is the film's better than him.
Yeah.
In this one.
I mean, look, and I'll add the movie could have been worse because originally Joaquin Phoenix was going to be Mark Wahlberg.
Fucking hell, mate! There's a downgrade for you. Holy shit!
Can you even imagine if Wahlberg had signed on to this film? He by the way, Wahlberg. It was Wahlberg turned this down. He was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that shit." And so they literally added Joaquin Phoenix like pretty much last minute. And
to be fair though, I think I sort of see it though, because if you're Wahlberg, you've just come off doing like Boogie Nights or something, so you can't then do this as well, mate. Then you're just the guy who does weird porn movies. You know,
I mean,
and Mark Wahlberg.
Also, can you just picture him though? Can you just picture him in his accent, like, "Hey, stop jerking off in there, you fucking whack ass bum," or whatever. Like, no, that would have stank so bad. Would have stank so bad. I've got the Ebert review.
Go on.
Oh, hold up! Before we do that, I just want to say really quickly that because this is tied to Mandy in an interesting way. So basically, we talked about on Mandy how the next film, what's his name, Panos Cosmatos,
correct? Yes,
the director. His next film is called Flesh of the Gods, and that's the one about the '80s vampires. The writer of 8mm, who also wrote Seven, is the writer of Flesh of the Gods, the new Panos Cosmatos movie.
Interesting.
So, whatever that's worth, I thought it was interesting.
No, yeah, what is that? Andrew Kevin Walker? Is that his name? Yeah. It's interesting because this guy, Seven is fucking sick, but this is a really hard thing to say. Seven is elevated by the director and the cast. If you given the script of Seven to Joel Schumacher, no one would remember Seven as like a 90s classic because it is kind of silly.
Sure,
it's kind of silly. Like
he also, by the way, wrote the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow, which might be my favorite Tim Burton movie, actually, like the one that he actually directed.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel that way.
I think
it will always be Edward Scissorhands, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. But I think Sleepy Hollow is kind of slept on. Like, it's not a terrible movie.
It's the big
Richard hates
no, it's not a hit.
More of a nerd lead.
Yeah. It's just the beginning of the end.
You don't know you're proud.
It's the beginning. Of the end.
I enjoy.
But like unfortunately, like put it this way, because we're going to talk about adaptation in the next one. The Seven script as written. It's got all the potential to be like the whack-ass one his screenplay his brother writes. It's like Seven, but he's a killer, but he's like an elevator pitch you do when you hire him.
He's got a condom with like a knife on it.
Yeah,
like,
he's got it. Like, by the way, what is that? Like, what? I've never understood the knife dick. Like, what's he doing, bro? Like, that's mental. But like, he's a killer, and he's gonna kill 7 victims, and the victims will reflect the deadly sins. But get this, the final sin is the detective who's trying to catch him because he drives him so crazy with anger. And it's like, oh, come on, man. Like, is there any more of that coke? Come on. Like, it really got that potential, but it just turns out it's just so well done. So the tone is perfect. Fincher hits it perfectly. 7 could have been 8mm. It could have easily come out like this. So you have to think sometimes, it's not all in the screenplay. Don't ever believe that. That's one of the biggest lies ever.
All right. So what about the Ebert review? What did you find, Richard?
It's a nice way to wrap up the show, and then we'll get off. But look, Roger Ebert. And now we've got to the bottom line of who he is. He just loves Nick Cage. He loves Nick Cage movies. He's worse than us. He quite literally gave this 3 stars.
Wow.
3 out of his 4. Which is mental, because if you think about some of the films he's given 2, 2.5, 1s, it's wild. Like, he really seemed to like this movie. And also, this is the quote, he gave a kind of ringing endorsement of why it's okay and permissible to like this movie. He said,
By the way, he gave Usual Suspects 1.5 stars, just to put that in context.
I'll also never be able to get
3 stars.
around.
Double the stars.
Make it 5 or 10 stars. Why have we gone to this like 4-star system where it's like
that was always Ebert
I've never
shtick.
understood
Like
that.
He was just like, I'm gonna have a totally different rating system. He's even written about like, maybe I shouldn't have had 4 stars. Oh, fuck off, dickhead! Like you weren't locked in a room and you must come up with.
You could have changed it any time, mate. Come on.
The whole number scoring thing is really fucking asinine anyway. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, you know, like is a 7 movie truly better than a 6.5 or even a 5? Well, 5s can have.
I also feel like the
10s.
reason reviews don't work in terms of scores for movies and music is because, like, really what you want in the review is talking about it and how you experienced it. Like, I've always said this, like, in theory, if you're going to use a rating system, you're supposed to include, just like with music, things like the idea of, like, how technically accomplished are you? How good are you with the instrument? How good is the cinematography? But the problem is that's not what music and cinema is about. Like, I've told you this before. I unironically love the fucking Ramones and Limp Bizkit and fucking Clerks and Mallrat. None of these would be technically genius things, but there's films that I would have to rate on a much higher level, like some prog rock or some shit, that I might not actually like as much. So at the end of the day, how does my rating system work now? Because surely if I like it more, it should be a higher star system. But how can I do that when the person, in terms of the technical aspects, is a 10th as good? Yeah. So it just shows to me, like, I know what you mean. The rating system is kind of bollocks. Anyway.
But also, you're not giving yourself a lot of room. Like, a rating system, if you're going to do a rating system, do it out of 100. Give yourself some runway, because how can I distinguish with 4 fucking stars, bro? Like, are all 4-star movies equal? That doesn't make any sense.
Also, logically, why do 4 and then do half stars? Yeah. Just do 8 if you're going to do that dick and half and be entire stars. Like, it's the same mathematics, but never mind, whatever. Don't get me on that. And then the idea of, like, well, what about 3/4 stars? Well, let's not get silly. Like, I'm out, Roger. You know what? Peace, I'm out. I'm out, mate.
But anyway, not to impugn his entire life's work yet again on this podcast. But
I'm also going to make a comedy movie. It's called Who Killed Roger Ebert? And at the end, the joke is no one. God or something. But then also, the movie is an experience showing that every single person who ever interacted with cinema had a justified reason to do it.
But anyone who's read his reviews.
Yeah, anyone.
So anyway, this is how he summed it up. He given it a 3. He said, I know some audience members will be appalled by this film, as many were by 7. It is a very hard R, careful Roger, that would doubtless have been NC.
What a lie. He called 8mm a very hard R.
Divorced from context, that's outrageous. It's a very hard R that would doubtless have been an NC-17 if it had come from an indie instead of a big studio with clout. But it is a real film. Not a slick exploitation exercise with all the trappings of depravity, but none of the consequences. It's not a film where moral issues are forgotten in the excitement of an action climax. Yes, the hero is an ordinary man who finds himself able to handle violent situations, but that's not the movie's point. The last 2 words of the screenplay are "save me," and by the time they're said, we know what they mean. So, yeah, you know, like...
I have a theory, Richard. I think perhaps Nicolas Cage is some sort of lens that allows Roger Ebert to see movies clearly.
Perhaps. I mean, look, I wouldn't have given this on the Roger Ebert scale.
I would not give it three stars.
Maybe, you know, it's a 2-ish. It's a
2.5.
2. Again, 2.5. You've got to like think about it. You're close to a 3 on Roger Ebert's scale. So
no, because I would give it more than a 5 out of 10 would be the argument there. It's not a 50%.
Yeah, but I can't on the Roger Ebert scale. I can't. He's not giving me the tools. So, but I'll say this. I mean, he's kind of right in what he's saying, but he's also kind of wrong, because I think ultimately, where this movie bungles is it doesn't. I don't feel that way by the end of the film. I don't feel like Nick Cage has genuinely gone through a harrowing transformation. I don't feel that he doesn't sell it well enough to make me believe I've seen a man lose his soul.
But again, I just want to point out that he is robbed of, like, the character is robbed of the scenes. So there are two scenes, like I said. The one of them is with the mom, but the other one is with the widow who hired him, because she just offs herself before he can even have a conversation with her.
The classic off-camera suicide with no twist.
Yeah, no twist, and also
she just
no resolution. Like we could have had two conversations, one between Nick Cage as the PI and the widow, where you get to see her horror that this has happened and him delivering that news, which seems like a very important scene.
Yeah.
To have in this movie, not on the phone. And then secondly, the actual conversation with the victim's mother.
I should
both
say,
of these things just don't exist.
I should say air quote suicide, because you know. But anyway, it's just it just doesn't stick the landing. It doesn't stick the landing. But in terms of its takeoff, it's the movie's great when it's at the taxiing stage of the flight, and you going up and up and up, and you're thinking, fucking hell, this could get dark. This could be about, we're in for a roller coaster here, and then Joaquin Phoenix turns up.
The descent into porn world is very fun.
Yeah. The descent into the world of not horrifying anymore 80s porn, 90s porn. Is great. All of that stuff's great. And it's just unfortunate that when it gets to the actual meat of the movie, which is it's meant to be a morality play, and, you know, when you hunt monsters, you must become all the classic tropes. It doesn't have any resonance in those areas, mainly because of a flat Nick Cage performance, but also as well, deeply silly scenes at the wrong time. There's some scenes that are silly, which are great. I love Kill 'Em All Machine. Kill 'Em All Machine is like, I know me and the boys used to fucking say that to each other just randomly, like when we would be out drinking, like, Kill 'Em All Machine. It's just funny as fuck. It's great. It's like one of the most memorable deaths in the movie. Like, you just bleeding out in the last thing. Kill 'Em All Machine. How's he gonna kill them all anyway? He's just some fat dude. He's a fat gimp. What you on about? Like, kill them all. It's just great. I love it. Like, it's just a fat gimp. He's not like some avatar of pure violence. But I mean, ultimately, unfortunately, the reality is when that silliness permeates in scenes that are meant to be deeply serious and affecting. Yeah, it's just it's the Joel Schumacher paradigm. Unfortunately, you know, all the reasons we love him are the reasons why sometimes his films do fucking go off the rails. So, you know, it's a sweet spot movie. It's not one of those I'll say, like, I'm never watching that again. I'll throw this on 5 years from now, probably, and just watch it. But I do think if people want to get an understanding of the material and the tone and the tenor that this movie was going for, or movies we talked about at the start to set up this episode, probably way better. Check out Hardcore for sure. George C. Scott, fucking love that guy. And, you know, watch things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre if you haven't. Watch things like Cannibal Holocaust if you haven't. You know, get an understanding for what this movie was. Man Bites Dog, if you can get it. That's what this movie's reaching for, but it's a very grasping hand that ultimately doesn't connect.
There you go. Probably I will say this is the low point of the arc, and even then, it's not that low. Like, this is a perfectly passable film that probably will have a fun time watching.
It's just an excuse to rewatch it and put it in the arc.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel like my time was wasted watching this movie. I had a good time. It was fun. But that said, I do think that the other films we picked are better than this film. And so if you guys maybe didn't enjoy this one as much, I wouldn't say abandon the arc now, because Adaptation is a very good movie. And we will be talking about that next week to wrap up our Nicolas Cage arc. So we'll see you then.